Yes, those are the victory horns. You hear them, and they sound for Rose Namajunas, who has now successfully won a flyweight contest in the UFC. But they sound for more than just Thug Rose. They sound for so many men and women today, and for refereeing and for chaos, because we had a little bit of everything on this card. That's right, UFC Vegas 89 is in the books. And we're here to talk about it, guys. It's UFC Vegas 89 post show. You're looking at me, you're thinking that man has a lot of hair. He's not Mike Heck. Mike Heck gloriously off, so he missed all the fun and shenanigans. But don't worry, I'm here. We got a whole cast of crew of characters. We have the Prince of Positivity himself, Mr. Alexander K. Lee.
I'm muted. All smiles, guys. All smiles. What a fun card. What a fun card. I haven't been earning my Prince of Positivity title recently. I feel like I've just been like, I got it and I was like, oh, okay, I can just act however I want to. No, this is a title that needs to be treated with respect. So we're going positive tonight. That was a fine evening.
A lovely evening. And we are also joined by Mr. New York Rick, Eric Jackman, as well. Are you a positive, New York Rick?
Yes, it was fun. Good to be here with you.
Wow, look at the vibes, just immaculate vibes. And when we're talking about immaculate vibes, I of course also must mention producer extraordinaire E. Casey Leydon on the ones and twos. I mean, he's got sleeves, so the vibes aren't as good as they could be, but it's in the evening at this point, even out in California. It's late. This was a late Apex card. We're going to hop into it. Before we do, same as always, guys, we're going to talk about some stuff. Then we're going to take your questions at the end, fire them in the hopper. You know the deal by now. If you want to super chat us, they get priority. And then Rick will, of course, ask you to super chat back in more and more times, because someone's got to pay for all that product that goes in his hair. And it's certainly not going to be me. So, boys, UFC Vegas 89, our main event. We're going to start there because it's the main event. I don't think it's the biggest talking point coming out of this card, frankly, but let's start at the top. Rose Namajunas wins a unanimous decision over Amanda Ribas. 5 rounds, very competitive fight. Certainly Ribas staged a strong comeback. I know Casey scored the bout for Ribas in the end. So let's start here. AK, I think we all agree this isn't a robbery, but who did you score the fight for?
Yeah, I had a narrow 48-47 for Rose. I don't say that score with like the utmost confidence. I didn't even think the 49-46s were bad. I guess I assume the scorecards are out there. 49-46 would have to be 1, 2, 4, and 5 Rose, right? Because I think round 3 is when we all thought like Hebus kind of started to turn things around. I'll look. Oh, the cards are up right now. Yes. Okay. So it's all 10-9 was the third round. 10-9 was the only one that they all gave to Hebus. So yes, the other two judges who gave 49-46. 4 rounds for us, 1, 2, 4, and 5. I don't think that's crazy. I thought 4 was pretty clear Hebus, but maybe I'm out to lunch. Maybe I'm out to lunch on that one. Either way, I did have Rose winning. The grappling was effective. There was effective grappling. She did damage in the ground. You would have seen more on the feet, especially since Hebus landed a lot of clean shots in all 5 rounds too. But yeah, I have no problem with that. I think Namajunas' striking was on point. I think some of the on-screen numbers might have messed with people. Jed, I know we were talking in the Slack about there was a huge advantage for Hebus in round 5. If people look at the on-screen significant strike numbers, it was 30-11 or something, and I'm like, I don't see 30 significant strikes for Hebus and only 11 for Namajunas. So I would always caution people on screen. Definitely the on-screen live scoring, strike tally is not to be taken as law. And even after they tabulate, even after they get the proper UFCstats.com significant strike stats, that does not necessarily tell the story of a fight, because a significant strike can range from a light jab to a cracking haymaker, right? Those are both significant strikes. They're just, so that it just doesn't tell the story. You have to watch the fight. So I thought all the rounds were pretty close. I would have liked seeing Rose have more impactful attacks on the ground again, but I thought she did enough on the ground to take the rounds where she closed out the last couple of minutes by being on top. I think that left a good impression on the judges, and I have no problem with the scores. I went 48-47 though.
That's what I also scored it. To your point though, AK, we were talking. I was very surprised by those numbers in the fifth round just because it wasn't reflective of what I was seeing. But dude, if you want to score, I thought the first three rounds were pretty clear. Two for Rose, one for Hebas.
Mhm.
Anything else you want to score after that, I don't have any issues with it. Uh, I was surprised 249-46s, but again, not bad scorecards, just not what I had. Rick, how did you feel about the main event? And most importantly, how did you score it? Do you think Rose is the rightful winner?
Yeah, I had Rose 49-46, but there were some close rounds in there. I think to your point, like honestly, even like round two, and it seems like one of the judges scored it for Hebus. I thought could have gone Hebus's way, so they were close. But I had the same scorecard as the two judges that scored at 49-46. How did I feel about it? Like uneventful, uninspiring. If you're Rose Namajunas and you're trying to make a splash at flyweight and enter this new division now with a win, after dropping your flyweight debut, like not thrilled with it. Didn't think it was that great. Also, Hebas is kind of a straw weight as well. Like maybe at this point we can kind of definitively say they can float between strawweight and flyweight, but like just not inspiring is kind of my biggest takeaway.
I want to touch back on that with the UAK, but I did pull up the stats from UFCstats.com. They should stop showing stats real time because UFC Stats now has the fifth round as 25 to 24 significant strike in
Yeah.
favor of Rose, which is
Oh.
in no way what was on the
Oh,
screen
there
at
you go.
all for that fifth. So if there's that big a gulf between what they're settling on, that's really bad because it was like, oh, Hebas is outlanding her by a considerable amount mathematically, which like I said, I didn't think was true. And sort of my vision of it ended up playing out. Hebas landed 28% of her significant strike attempts in the fifth round, 24 of 85. So took them a while to tabulate, but there we go. So the point being, close competitive fight. If Hebas had won, it wouldn't have been awful. Rose getting 49-46 is okay. But AK, I want to circle back to what Eric said at the end there about this, the floating between weight classes, sort of where we're at for Rose in her career, this being a bit underwhelming considering who Rose is, as at least who our perception of Rose, the star, the former champion, is. Uh, how does this fight sit with you for Rose's future, ostensibly at flyweight? She's kind of repeated the line she's not going back down. In her post fight interview, she talked about feeling stronger up here because she put on the weight for this fight, but that she also felt slower. So, what are you taking away for Rose as a flyweight contender, I guess?
Well, before I give my opinion, we should definitely let people know that they can share their opinion in a poll that I threw up on the YouTube. Is Rose Namajunas a contender at 125 pounds after her win at UFC Vegas 89? Already within like 5 minutes, we've got almost 300 votes. Pretty firmly no. Pretty firmly no, 59%.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think I was kind of leaning that way even when we were doing the preview show. I think I said something to the effect of, even if Rose like wows us on Saturday and takes out Amanda Hebus, I don't know if what that means for her as far as being a flyweight contender. Because again, Amanda is a good fighter who bounces between two weight classes. If we think size is going to be an issue for Rose, as I think it did matter in the Manon fight a little bit. I mean, Manon was considerably bigger. This win tonight does not really remedy that in any way because again, Amanda is just a strawweight who doesn't cut weight when she fights at 125. I think that's what Rose is too. So I quite enjoyed the fight, and I was glad to see Rose get a win. This was her first win in, I want to say, 2.5 years. Most of that due to inactivity, of course. It's not like she's been on some crazy ass losing streak. But yeah, it has been a while since we've seen Rose seen her hand raised. And when you consider how fast the sport moves, that's like 2.5 years is like a lifetime ago. So it's encouraging. It's encouraging. I think she still has it. Her skills are still clearly there. She's still one of the most well-rounded fighters in either division. But I would not pick her to beat Erin Blanchfield. Again, I would not pick her to win a Manon rematch. She kind of called for the winner of the Atlantic City. Is that the main event? Atlantic City main event?
It is the main event, yes.
It is the main event. Yeah, she kind of called for the winner of that fight. And I don't think Erin should have to fight her. I know Rose is considerably more famous, is obviously more accomplished so far in her career. but it just feels like Erin Blanchfield has already done enough to earn a title fight, and if she takes care of Manon, having her fight again would just be straight up absurd. So I don't know where Rose goes. I think she could have a lot of fun fights at 125. And I support her not wanting to cut weight down to 115. It can't be fun. I know, I do think it's her ideal weight class. Like, I do think that's where she fights the best. But if she says she's been suffering at that weight and it's just not worth it, considering how much she's already accomplished there, then I can't begrudge her. As a fan, of course, I want to see her drop back down. I want to see her fight Zhang Weili again. She's already beaten her twice. If Zhang has strings together another couple of title defenses, why shouldn't Rose go after her again, right? But again, if that's not in the cards, I totally understand. Maybe she's just a fun fighter at 125, but I don't see her making a serious run for the title. Like, even if she gets the title shot, it would be based on name value. I just don't see her having a super strong resume at 125.
Rick, how do you feel? Do you think Rose Namajunas not even can win the title? Do you think she has the ability, from what you've seen at her flyweight at the moment, to make a title run?
Title run, potentially. I mean, I just think that there's opportunities where she can win a lot of the fights against the top flyweights, but I am starting to question what her level is. And maybe this is going to feel pretty hindsighty. But I'm just looking at the resume in recent years. I'm looking at the loss to Manon. I'm looking at the loss to Esparza. I'm looking at the split decision against Zhang Weili, which I scored for Zhang Weili. And in either case, you could slice that was a close fight. The head kick over Zhang, great win. Win over Jessica Andrade, she kind of got pieced up in the third round there, like bad. Then you go back to the loss to Jessica Andrade, and then you go back to the win over Joanna. So, like, the run's not been great, if I'm being honest. The run's not been great. I'm starting to wonder where Rose Namajunas is at, whether it's at strawweight or flyweight. If I'm being honest, that's where I'm at right now. Is like, where is Rose Namajunas? Because this performance didn't tell me much, and it didn't inspire. Can she be a potential contender in each division? Yeah, because she'll get the fights to be a contender in either division. But I'm less than impressed with the recent history for Rose Namajunas.
I feel that. Look, she's still young, but she's got some mileage on her. I think this is her 11th or 12th year of fighting, which is a lot of years of fighting. And I like you guys. I'll say it a little more firmly. I don't think she's going to be competitive at 125. I think she can be competitive with a lot of people there. I think that it's not a bad call out to call for the winner of Manon Blanchfield, just because the timeline at flyweight makes that fight maybe possible. She can beat Manon. She already lost to her, but that she can win that fight, at least theoretically. I think Blanchfield will just thump her. And I also think Blanchfield, AK, to run counter to you, I think Blanchfield might just choose to take the fight because she wants to fight, and she knows that with Shevchenko and Grasso holding up the division forever at this point in time, if she waits for her title shot, she's going to be waiting until at best December, much more likely 2025. So interesting times at flyweight and women's flyweight. And frankly, we don't need to spend too much more time on this unless you guys got questions. Remember, get your questions in. We're going to answer them at the back. Look, there's some other fights to talk about, and we can put those on the list, but we got to talk about the thing of the evening. On the prelims, a thing happened, boys, and I got to tell you, I've been covering the sport professionally for almost a decade. I've been following this sport for close to 30 years, like 25 years, I think, of fandom. And this isn't some stuff I've seen in the modern MMA game. In a prelim bout between undefeated prospects, the second fight of the evening, Andre Lima takes on Igor Severino. It's a super fun fight, back and forth affair, lots of stuff happening. It was electric. And then in the middle of a weird clinched position, Lima starts kind of gesturing to referee Chris Taioni. I believe it was Chris Taioni. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. Taioni does a bad job of stopping the fight. He just says, stop the action, and doesn't touch anybody. And then is finally like, okay, stop, and gets and stops. And you're trying to figure out what happens. And what had happened was Igor Severino bit Andre Lima on the left bicep hard, apparently, based on the bite marks that were then very visible after this, immediately DQ'd. It's a bunch of weirdness, and I'm not 100%, but I do think that this is the first DQ via biting in UFC history. So that's now a thing, fellas. And Rick, I just want to toss this to you right out of the gate. Uh, what just happened, and why did it happen, and where do we go from here?
Why did it happen? I cannot answer for you. I have no idea why in the middle of a competitive fight, he decided to bite his opponent. Could not tell you. Just got zero idea. You know what? I get the best estimation of why is maybe he thought he could get away with it, like everything else. You foul and you foul and you foul, and most of the time you do get away with it. He tried, and this time he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar or his teeth on the arm, whatever you want to say.
His teeth in the cookie jar.
He made too much of an impression, like literally
Wow.
in his arm.
But
He made too much of an impression to the point where it's undeniable how badly he fouled his opponent. But I just like, for me, the story is just Lima. Like, this dude has taken and run with this opportunity and become like a guy, like in the course of a few hours. Dana White's talking about how much he loves him. He got the tattoo of the bite impression.
Let's explain that. Let's explain that,
Yeah.
Rick, because what happened is immediately after the fight, Dana White sees Lima backstage. Dana White is in attendance at an Apex, which is not always the case, but for whatever reason he was this week. Sees Lima backstage and comes up and tells him, we hear this from Guilherme Cruz, our own, told us that Lima's agent or coach, manager, one of them, talked to him and said that Dana White was like, hey, I'm going to give you the first ever you got bit bonus. Hour and a half later, whatever that timeline is, Lima goes out, gets the bite mark tattooed with you got bit bonus over it. Dana White puts it on his Instagram, says I was going to give him 20K. Now I'm giving him 50K. And Andre Lima, who is a hotshot prospect, frankly, a guy who I was super high on this Contender Series, takes one of the weirder moments in history, in recent UFC history, and turns it into an unmitigated win across the board for him. I just wanted to get that out in case people are watching or listening to this later and don't know what we're talking about. But you're right, Rick. He took this opportunity, grabbed it with both hands. He's running with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just saw the UFC socials tweet out the bite of the night. It is official. We have all the bonuses are official, by the way, so we can talk about that in a second. But yes, they made an extra graphic. Just there it is. There's the bite of the night, Andre Lima.
That's tremendous.
I hope fighters are aware that he is the one who was bitten, and this does not encourage them to try and get a bite of the night bonus going forward. You have to get bitten, guys, not be the biter. I'm pretty sure the only thing that Igor Severino got tonight was a pink slip, not any sort of fight night bonus. So, yeah, this was strange. Jed, you were asking before, like, if this has ever happened in UFC history. No, I had to go back. I remembered a similar incident on the Ultimate Fighter. This was the very little watched Ultimate Fighter 16 team Shane Carwin versus team Roy Nelson. And it was, where is his name? It just John Manley choked out James Chaney, but James Chaney tried to bite his way out of the choke and later admitted to it. He later admitted, yep, I tried to bite him. So there wasn't much controversy because he got submitted anyway. But yes, that's the last time I can think of a UFC even tangential fight having someone so blatantly bite someone else. I'm glad we can all laugh about it. I'm glad that Lima wasn't hurt. It was kind of a freaky moment, man. And for Severino, I know we're all crapping on him, and rightfully so. Like, that's a disgusting thing. We joke all the time that people should, somewhat joke, somewhat serious, that people should cheat. But biting someone, that's definitely crossing a line. I think we can all agree. Some people were like, oh, there's no, like, I saw a few reactions like, oh, there's no warning. And it's like, yeah, there's no warning. You're just disqualified. This isn't a glancing low blow, accidental fingers in the eye. This is not gamesmanship. This is a guy biting another dude. I'm not even entirely sure why. Like, it was such a weird, he wasn't like getting crushed in the fight or anything.
It was deeply weird. It was a deeply weird bite because, to your point, AK, Casey, we were talking about this before the show. Casey did not see it in real time, so he assumed, like you would, that the man was trying to bite his way out of a choke. Because like
Yeah.
you said, we have seen that. Michael Chandler was famously accused of biting Dustin Poirier, or Michael Chandler was accused of fish hooking Poirier, and then Poirier was like, "So I bit him." Which is an incredible thing. Like, yeah, his fingers were in my mouth, so I just chomped on him. But that's very different. This was a functionally neutral position, and his head is just kind of buried in the arm. And you can't, to be absolutely clear, you can never see the bite happen because of the camera angles, but it is incontrovertible that it did. And it's just an unbelievable story, guys. Like, Rick, did you wake up thinking today's the day we're finally going to get a bite in the UFC?
I
It's
was
been too
hoping.
long.
I was hoping. I was hoping that today would be the day. No, certainly not. And I think it caught us all off guard. I don't think most people knew what the break in action was when it was first occurring. Like, I thought
I
maybe it
didn't.
was. Yeah, I thought maybe it was something to grabbing a fence or a low blow or something to that effect. And then we take a pause. And credit to referee Cristagnoni, who like took the pause, figured out what's going on, calls in the commissioners, figures out like what the proper protocol is here. They see the replay. They kind of see that there's some kind of bite going on. He shows the impression on his arm, and it's a wrap. So thought it was handled quite well. Once it was clear what was going on, and yeah, there's there's no warning for biting your opponent. I think we can mostly all agree that that's an automatic DQ, but it sounds like AK's found some savage individuals who are
Oh
trying
no,
to
there
bring
were a
that back.
couple.
Yeah.
AK is not alone. There were a couple because I immediately tweeted out a criticism of Brendan Fitzgerald, who I like. I like Brendan personally, and I also think that he is good at his job. But he was on the call and was like, they didn't even give him a warning. Like they're just going straight to the DQ. And then even after Paul Felder was like, no, dude, he bit him. He was like, yeah, but like there's been similar stuff, and like you would just think that they would do this, and it's like no, this is the most clear and obvious DQ of all time. And I tweeted that out, and I had some people in the mentions being like, no, like it would have been fine. Let him go on. Like it's just because he bit him and he didn't like cut him open does not mean this works, guys. So easily the second most electric thing that happened this evening,
Listen,
or the most
Igor,
electric thing.
Igor, I just want to add, Igor, I meant to say this before. Igor is only 20 years old. He's a young man. Now, by the time you're 20, you should be learning not to bite people. But I've never been a 20-year-old person in
You
a
should be
cage
learning
fight.
not to bite people by the time you're 2. I was literally hanging
Yes,
out
this
with a
is true.
2-year-old today,
Certainly by
and
20.
that was on the things we talked about was
Yes.
biting when I was with a 2-year-old earlier today and his parents.
Certainly by 20 you should, but look, again, I've never been a 20-year-old in a cage fight. He just, maybe he just lost his sense. He lost his sense. You have to be a little crazy to even become a professional fighter, so he might just went a little bit further over the edge and bit. But I think the release is justified. It's just not a thing that you want your contracted fighters to be doing, and he can still get his way back. Just behave well for the next couple of years. He can get his way back. He's an exciting fighter. He's a talented guy. I just hope I'll be keeping an eye for his name because, we do Misfits every week, Jed. I have this thing about covering the regional international scene. And if he bites someone again, you bet your ass that's going to be the headline of this feature. So, Igor, just behave, and maybe we'll be talking about you again soon.
Can we
If
all
he bites somebody
acknowledge
again,
he needs to immediately come out with like the Hannibal Lecter mask next time?
Oh,
Like he needs
no.
to completely lean into the thing and just make it his persona from now on.
I don't hate it. It's definitely weird though, because the whole situation is really weird. Lean into the skid, I'm usually a fan of, but if you bite somebody else,
You
you're
have
just
to.
going to be known as the guy who bites people. And
Yeah,
that
be known
is,
as that.
look, nobody else has that gimmick in MMA, so I guess you can have that, but it's not the one you want, particularly because you're 20 years old. You have a window, and I don't actually think we ever stated it clearly, but Igor Severino was released by the UFC within like 20 minutes of this all going down. And Dana White made some statements too. I think Kevin Iole about,
Yeah.
obviously we had to let go of him, and he's going to be dealing with a lot more issues because the commissions are going to get involved, and I would be shocked if he is not fined. Um, it's not a great scene. Maybe he does overcome this and this becomes a weird thing because, hey guys, Mike Tyson famously bit a dude's ear off and now he's beloved and fighting Jake Paul 30 years later. So everyone loves a comeback story. Igor
And
Severino, you get yours.
teaming up
Speaking of a
with that
come,
person to sell like products about biting. So like, yeah,
yeah,
who knows? Andre and Igor could be working on something here.
there's always a time. Speaking of great comebacks, we're not going to talk about the penultimate fight because no one wants to talk about Carl Williams, who did beat Justin Tafa via unanimous decision in a heavyweight fight. But there was a very cool comeback right before that in the Edmund Shabazian taking on AJ Dobson fight. We're not going to go through all of the fights on the main card, but this one and one other I do think merit talking about, and it's let's go to Shabazian, AK. We talked offline. You were on the preview show yesterday. Sort of mixed bag around people's views on where Shabazian is as a prospect. He's still young, but his defeats have been so tough. And it looked like he was doing that against Dobson. Dobson came out, jawed him with a great right hand, but he managed to survive and then kind of tagged Dobson with a very weird left hook and smelled blood in the water and finished the drill. Really solid comeback for a first round win for Shabazian. How do you take this performance? Sort of give me your thoughts on this fight.
There's never been any questions about Shabazian's like striking offense. He is blessed with knockout power. Okay, he's one of the few people to knock out Brad Tavares, and Brad Tavares has fought in the UFC like 20 something times, and I think he's been knocked out maybe twice or if that. And Shabazian's one. It was a great knockout too. So his offense has never been a question. It's the grappling defense specifically, but certainly early in this fight, I was worried about just his defense in general, just his chin. Just has this guy already taken too much damage? Less than 10 years into a pro fighting career, because he's those losses he had, he's none of them were like flash KOs. They were prolonged. Like he got taken down, he kind of gassed out a little bit, and he took like poundings. Like those are his losses in the UFC are ugly and memorable for the wrong reasons. And I was worried that when Dobson like cracked him, I was like, oh man, like maybe this is just who he is now. Like he's just a guy who cannot take damage anymore, even at only 26 years old. It sounds crazy to say, but when you're thrown to the UFC so early, so I'm seeing he made his debut. He was like 20, 21 when he made his UFC debut, hence the Golden Boy. Once you get on that UFC clock, man, it is hard to get recalibrated. You know what I mean? Because suddenly you're fighting like a guy like Derek Brunson. You're fighting Jack Hermanson, Nasruddin Imavov. These are like 3 straight losses he had. And clearly, they're not just a notch above Edmund. They are several notches above Edmund. It was too early for him to fight those guys. But again, you're in the UFC. You've picked up some big wins. The matchmakers really have no choice, at least as far as promoting you, to kind of keep sending you upwards. So Dobson was the right opponent for him, right? I feel like we've got him back to where we think he should be. If he had lost this fight, I honestly don't know what direction his career would have gone. I saw people asking, at 26, with this, is he cooked? Is he cooked at 26 if he loses to AJ Dobson? Clearly not. Again, he won. But it's weird. In a way, I feel like we still didn't have any questions answered because he got hurt. He came back and won with his striking, which is what he always does. And there was some grappling involved, actually, that he initiated. So we maybe learned a little, but I think he's still such an unpredictable fighter, at least in these situations. And I still think if he faces anyone with grappling in the middleweight division, it's not going to go his way. So great win, prolonged his UFC career, as it were. I have no idea if this should convince anyone that he's going to reach those lofty heights that he was once expected to reach.
Jed, you are muted, sir.
Whoops. Rick, any thoughts on Shabazian before we move to bonuses? Because bonuses have dropped. So if you have anything about Edmund, drop it, because I doubt we'll be talking about it much after this.
No, feel pretty similar to AK, like, kind of a stay of execution. Like didn't really like put the nail in the coffin, nor did it make me think like, wow, this is a new wrinkle for Edmund's game. Like it was just kind of on to the next. But yeah, I mean, incredible comeback, like bonus deserving, as we're about to get into bonuses.
stay of execution is a fantastic way to put it because they had him walk up the stairs. His head was in the guillotine and then just popped it out at the last minute. Terrific stuff. We got bonuses, boys. Have either of you seen them?
I have.
Okay,
I
then
have
AK,
not.
you're out of this. Rick,
I'm not.
would you care to take a guess at what our bonuses this evening were?
Can you just give me? Do we have only performances, or do we have a fight
Nope,
of the
we
night?
have a fight of the night.
Okay. Shabazian performance.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Tough scenes for him too, but incorrect. And I don't think it's wrong either.
All right. Peyton Talbot performance.
That is absolutely correct.
Wait, let me try to do fight of the night. What do we got here?
If you just look at the card, you should be able to determine fight of the night.
Was it Wen and Aaron's?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, so one more performance. Is that going to be Erosa?
No, Fernando Padilla gets
Okay.
the other performance.
Yeah.
And of course, fight of the night goes to Andre Lima, which is officially on Wikipedia. So shouts to Wikipedia for having fight of the night.
as it should be.
As it should be.
Some good finishes on this card. You had some bonuses to choose from. Truly, like this card delivered. It punched way above its weight. For what the expectations were coming in.
I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far because there were also a lot of other fights that happened, but it was not a bad Saturday evening if you had nothing else going on. Absolutely. Last thing I want to talk about before we pop into the questions is the guy you mentioned, the show stealer of the card. In a world without biting, maybe the guy who I'd be talking about the most coming out of this. Peyton Talbot beats Cameron Simon.
Wow.
Second round TKO immediately second round, and he got a performance bonus. Absolutely deserved it. The best performance of anyone on this whole card. Is a guy I'm super high on as a prospect. AK, how far do we think Talbot can go? We don't have to stay here too long because I think we'll have some questions on him. But what are you taking away from this Talbot performance?
Blown away, man. Blown away. I'm at the point now where it would surprise me if he wasn't ranked by I'll say next year. I've seen people already saying they want to throw him against a top 15 opponent, which would be fun, but not necessary at all. This is an extremely deep division. Again, guys, we are talking about 135 here with featherweight and lightweight. Like 2 wins. I don't care if you're a top prospect. 2 wins in the UFC, and I think only like 8. I think it's like 8-0 or 7-0 right now. He's so early in his career. It would be insane. He can't skip over a bunch of people. It probably wouldn't be good for him to skip over a bunch of people. But a year from now, could he be facing a top 15 or even a top 20 guy and like be on such a streak that we give that the UFC puts a 15 or 14 next to his name? I could see it. They like him. They're always eager to find contender series success stories. And so far he has looked great. I was blown away. I picked Simon to win. Not because I thought Simon is so much better than him, but I thought he'd faced a higher level. He's younger, but he's faced a higher level of competition. I think he's just a little bit more battle tested. And I thought Talbot looked good in his UFC debut, but looked young. They're both young guys, Talbot and Simon. But I just underestimate his striking, the athleticism and size. We know that's an advantage for him, but he's using it effectively. I thought he paced himself well. I thought round 1, I was like, oh man, he's going to punch himself out, but I was totally wrong. He came out in round 2, had a lot of pep in his step, and ended it less than 30 seconds into round 2. So, I thought both guys had the potential to be ranked, potential. Now I still like Simon, but he has a little bit further to go now after that loss, and I think Talbot again will have. I'm not going to say top 10, but top 15 by 2025, sometime in 2025. Feels very likely. Hell of a talent.
Rick, wax poetic on Peyton Talbot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I need to. I think the proof is in the pudding. Like, there's certain guys you can look at when they step in the cage and see it. Whatever that it thing is, you can see it. Now, who knows what the future holds in terms of Does he have mic skills? And is there a personality that can people to latch onto? But he's got the baseline foundation for that stardom that could potentially be upcoming, which is that he can fight. Like, this is obviously the first opponent of his whose name I recognize, who I've, could even recall any of their fights. And he aced that test. So, we've got steps to go. We've got levels to go, and we've got a road ahead that is going to take some time to get down. But when you watch him fight, it's very obvious, right? I don't think there's anybody that watched that fight that goes, yeah, I still need to kind of see if he's any good. Like, it's clear. It's very clear now. Now we're gonna have to see him at an increased level of competition. But I'm impressed. I'm paying attention, and I'm excited about his future.
As am I, man. I loved him off the Contender Series, and that was an unbelievable performance. Rest of the results, and we'll pop to your questions. Yusuf Zalal just kind of beats the tar out of Billy Quarantillo. Second round rear naked choke submission. Fernando Padilla, Bravo chokes Luis Pajuelo in the first round. Pajuelo is going to be a super fun get guy, and he got. Trey Ogden defeats Kurt Hollabaugh by unanimous decision. Juliana Rosa upset win over Ricardo Ramos with a guillotine choke, comeback-ish guillotine choke in the first round. Miles John, UD over Cody Gibson. The tough members, AK, they dropped for you. I'm sorry. Jonah Aarons beats Steve Wynn, UD. Daria Zalesnyakova takes a unanimous decision over Montserrat Rindon. That maybe wasn't a great decision, but also just no one will ever care. And then Mick Parkin opened things up with the UD over Muhammad Usman. That's UFC Vegas 89 in the books. And that means it's time for your questions, y'all. We'll answer the super chats and maybe a few others, but we don't need to spend 3 hours talking about this fight card because it was a perfectly fine one, but it's late. We got other things to do. So, Casey, come on in. You're in.
I don't know, Jed. We got a lot of super chats. We got a lot of super chats, guys.
We'll answer all the super chats.
We'll get to all the super chats.
Chat us forever. We'll be here forever. At least I will.
There could be more to come. There could be more to come.
Stop encouraging him.
I can't keep anyone else, but I'll stay.
All right.
Casey, let's fire it up. Let's let the people have their say about Vegas 89.
We got our first super chat from somebody named a wonderful name of Casey.
Casey, Jed Meshew is the GOAT. How many more for Talbot before a ranked opponent? In my opinion, I think 3 minimum. Well, we did kind of answer this. I will just throw out 1. Thank you, Casey. I really appreciate that. 2, absolutely untrue. The GOAT's name is Esther Lynn, so get that one right. And 3, I'm with Rick. I'm with AK. I don't think they need to rush him. I don't know if the 3 minimum feels wrong. It'll probably be 3, but they're going to do the thing they do. They'll escalate him up a little bit. They may give him one more even opponent, but even Cameron Simon was a step up and like a step up with intention, right? This Simon is another dude who's very young and was a prospect. So now they know, okay, Talbot's our best bantamweight prospect. They'll let him get his feet wet, but I suspect by early 2025, we see him get, Pedro Munoz, if he's still hanging around the rankings. That feels like something they would do. So, yeah, and I think he's got a great chance of working well on that timeline. Kid has all the promise in the world.
When is it a good time to rush someone? Because we always say, I hope they don't rush him. I hope they don't rush him. Oh, you're muted, Mr. Jackman.
I think
You're muted, Mr. Jackman.
Sorry.
No problem.
When they've got not a lot of miles left, when it's Alex Pereira and the clock is running and you need to get him into a title fight with Izzy, that's the only scenario where you really rush somebody. When you've got
strictly
a
age,
prospect,
just the age.
Miles. It could be age, but for me, it's miles, right? Alex Pereira's been fighting for a very long time, and so you need to get him there. You need to get him there against Izzy before that clock expires. So that's the only scenario that I can think. When it comes to like a young prospect, I would say never. You should not cheat the system. Let them have the time to develop.
Okay. I'm with Rick on this because there were a couple of Contender Series guys this most recent season who are like Pereira, former Glory kickboxers, and so they have miles, they are older, and you're bringing them in. But even if they're young in MMA, they still have a lot of combat experience. I'm more open to being like, hey, we can't slow burn them. Let's find out. Peyton Talbot's 25. There's absolutely no need. That used to be the UFC's MO. And for every 300 you do, you get a John Jones, the youngest champion ever. And then the rest of them you burn out and they don't develop, because that's not how you develop good fighters. So no is the right answer 98% of the time.
Was Cameron Simon rushed? Was he pushed too fast?
No,
now
so.
he has two back-to-back losses, and he just got knocked out pretty bad. Well, he got TKO'd pretty bad.
But the losses were against other prospects, right? It's not like they rushed him.
No, there's still losses. If you lose against Pedro Munoz, you're still getting beaten up.
That's okay. You can lose in the regional scene too. If you lose in the regional scene, does that mean you were rushed? No, it just means you lost. Right? It doesn't mean you were rushed.
Yeah. So we are clear. Cameron Simon has not fought anyone with a Wikipedia page. So I think by definition he can't be considered rushed, because Christian Rodriguez has proven to be a game gritty fighter, but that's not like, at the time it certainly wasn't this massive step up. And Talbot was a guy with one UFC fight and certainly a guy we believed in. But I think that these are appropriate. These are just losses you take as you're finding your way.
I think what Casey's getting at, though, is maybe they could have kept them separate longer, right? If you thought that Cameron Simon could be like a blue chipper, maybe you keep him away from somebody like Talbot. But I think it's one of those where one was going to get got, and that's just how it broke out, you know?
Yeah, I actually didn't like this fight being booked, especially for Simon. But it is what it is, as they say. So, all right.
Yeah.
Because of this situation for Simon, because this situation happened. So that's why I kind of say that.
One last note on this I'll say is it's hard to put a number and just say 3 or 4 fights, because this is assuming like Talbot State, the fight game is so unpredictable. He might suffer a minor injury, or he might just decide to take like 8 months off. So he could win his next 2 fights, and then let's say he doesn't fight again till December of 2025. Then it changes his whole momentum, right? Then it could be like, oh well, now he needs another 2 fights to get a ranked opponent, right? It's hard. It's so tricky in this game because you can go from so hot to so cold if you're struck by inactivity for whatever reason, and so that could be the case with Talbot. So it's hard to put a number on it and just say, oh well, he wins 3 fights, he gets a ranked guy, because it's not guaranteed. Like, they don't hold your spot for you if you miss time.
By the way, it's not. Oftentimes these things are thought of as like this like UFC decision alone, but like it's really up to his team and his management to keep him on the right track. And it's not just the UFC. The UFC could offer him a short notice ranked guy to save a card and do this and that. It's really a collaborative effort that needs to happen, and his team needs to handle his career carefully, because they have somebody that I think a lot of people will say is a blue chipper. So don't blow that. You know, and it's not just like the because the UFC could say, hey, I want you to fight a ranked opponent tomorrow, and it's up to them to navigate his career properly. So, it's not just a UFC decision.
And then you run the risk of the matchmakers hating on you because you turned down a
Maybe.
fight. Which is a whole nother matchmaking policy. Oh, it happens all the time behind the scenes.
They do rarely hate prospects who turn down fights.
Yeah.
So, like that's their favoritism is blatant and obvious in these things. Like, I really doubt they would be like, unless Talbot turns down like 8 fights, which does not seem likely, I doubt they'd be like, screw that kid. They'd just be like, oh, it's fine. You're allowed to do that. We think you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The UFC would never be petty. That's not them.
one of the 3.
I understand what you're saying, Jed. I got you.
One of the 3 biggest winners of the night. Would we say Rose, Talbot, Zalal?
No, Lima easily.
Yeah, Lima's number 1.
Oh, this is true.
I think.
The most talked about.
I think there's a clear argument Lima is the top winner of the evening.
Yeah. He's the most talked.
I don't think it's debatable. He's number 1 by far.
Dana White knows and likes him.
Yeah.
And he's a flyweight, so like shit, Steve Urseg's fighting for a title, his 3rd fight, a 4th fight in the company. Like Lima's another good turn away from being a top 15 dude, fast tracked. I think he won the night by a mile.
Yeah.
What a great game.
Thank you, Casey. It was super chatting with you.
All right. Lazy bed, just a staple. Lima with the criminally egregious Aegis fence grabs. Shane Igor got canned. Scruff McGruff Severino was just taking a bite out of crime. So we did mention this, but it is true. And
I want to make a note of this because I did see someone in the comments call me a hypocrite. I don't think they mean it, meanly, but I say all the time, me and Mike Heck, cheat, just always cheat. Cheating is the best answer always because you're never going to get punished for it. There's a line, people, between cheating and being an idiot. And that line is exactly Igor Severino because Andre Lima was cheating and he wasn't punished for it. And that's great. It was great work by him. When you cheat in a way that is blatantly bad and you leave visible evidence like a bite mark, that's bad cheating. Don't do the bad cheating. Do the normal, regular cheating. I also don't condone bringing like a gun into the cage because that also would be cheating and is clearly not a good plan. Do you guys have any thoughts on the fence grabs?
Yes,
somebody
I
hates
thought
the Second Amendment. Jeez, all right.
I thought it was understood. I thought it was understood when we frequently say, "Oh, we encourage cheating." Part of good cheating is not getting caught. That shouldn't need to be said, guys. That is in any, not in MMA, any sport. If you cheat and you get away with it, I applaud you. You did something to help yourself win or your sports team win, whatever it was. As long as you're not hurting anybody. Again, this was both. This was so obvious that he was going to get caught, and two, like really kind of a nasty thing to do to someone. And I mean, I know they're doing a lot of things to hurt each other in there, but
kind of a nasty thing to do.
Fighting feels beyond the pale. He bit him. So Lima was not getting. Look, yeah, you're right. He wasn't getting the fence grab called. Great, good job, Lima. Severino, you got the bite called. Your fight lost your UFC career over for now. No tip of the cap. No clap for you, sir. That was just bad. That's bad cheating, guys. That's the worst kind of cheating.
I mean, I will say congratulations to doing it in a way that no one could have ever seen because even the video replay couldn't catch you doing it. But again, you left evidence at the scene of the crime. That's not how that works. You gotta be smarter.
I see people asking, you guys might know better than I do. How did he do it through the mouthpiece? Is it just that, I guess the mouthpiece he clamped on with the mouthpiece and just bit down super hard, and that's why it left kind of like...
You have to bite down very hard to leave impressions on I assume the top row, because there seem to be impressions on the top and bottom row. To leave impressions on the top row, you have to bite very hard. I'm not sure. I might try to bite myself with my mouth guard in later tonight just to see if it's possible. I didn't think. I honestly didn't think you could do it.
You maybe just be able to do it just because of where it is, and it's more of a pinching like mechanism on that arm piece as opposed to like a deep bite. But yeah, I mean like he bit the shit out of it. Like, there's just no other explanation for what happened other than he bit the shit out of him. So, wow. Didn't think that's what we were going to be talking about this evening, boys, when it started.
Fighting just makes you go crazy because that's the only real explanation. He just kind of went crazy for a couple of seconds, and
it's still so weird though. He wasn't losing. Like I get
that's
it.
What I mean.
I don't understand how Mike Tyson's brain goes from in a clinch to biting a man's ear off, but I can understand how that jump is made. He's not like he was losing, but he was not losing by a lot. It was a deeply competitive fight.
Oh, there was a mention of talking about previous bites. Ronda did technically bite Liz Carmouche, and there were actually teeth marks on Liz Carmouche.
Did she bite her, or did Liz Carmouche's forearm go into her teeth?
Hey, it would. Yes. If you want to be technical about it,
because you can't bite with the top. The jaw is a stable mechanism. You got to bite with the jaw. I'm
just saying it was fun. There is a photo of Liz Carmouche with teeth marks from Ronda and after the fight, but it's just obviously it was a different situation. But that's what I assumed.
That's on Liz. Yeah, that's on Liz. Ronda's jaw was not moving. Her skull is stationary.
Hey, Ronda knows how to cheat. Let me just say, she cheated because she did not get caught.
If they don't call it, it's not cheating. That's just savvy. Thanks, Lazy Bed. Super chatting with you.
Jeez. Okay. Because this is a super chat and they paid $2.99, we have to answer this. We'll answer this question. Last one, the biting.
Big Daddy Crave, which is more effective, biting or the oil check? The oil check is definitely more effective. Just because like you can get away with that much easier because there's not physical evidence in the same way that teeth marks is. But I mean, biting is also an effective strategy if you're in like a street fight.
Well,
So, yeah.
there could be some physical evidence. I mean, that's why they call it an oil check. I mean, I'm just saying, and we don't need to get into details, but
It's hard. It would just not be the same to prove that one.
I
Although that one
just
also
hope
is much harder, I think, to hide on camera.
I just hope this question is not asking which is more effective, if you did an oil check or if you did biting in the area where an oil check would target. If you know what I'm saying. I hope that is
You just
not
had
what this
to take
question
it
is
there.
asking.
You just had to take it
I
there,
want to
huh?
clarify. I don't think that's
HR.
what's being asked. I do not think that's what's being asked.
I don't think that's what's being asked. You just wanted to put it on print for us.
I
This
just want to make
website.
sure. I'm about clarity.
We need to move on before AK gets fired.
Jeez, okay. All right, a couple more super chats coming in.
Thanks,
$10.
Big Daddy Crave.
Yeah, thank you very much. Make sure. All right, make sure there's no
Tiger
there's
Shark
no-
Diver. That is exactly what we're talking about. I'm not going to reference that, but yes. From Steven, Jed, Mr. Ortega is very upset. He wants to have dinner and figure this out. Also, Mr. Chandler is a guest. Please give them fighter advice. I don't want to have dinner with that honestly sounds miserable. Just having dinner with Brian Ortega and Michael Chandler's just there. Like he's just around. Sounds super awkward and weird. My advice is very simple. Brian Ortega should really learn how to defend himself other than just having a great chin. That would be instrumental to being like an actual champion. For Michael Chandler, I don't know. Honestly, I don't hate what Michael Chandler does. I just don't like him, I actually think he's managed his UFC career exceptionally well. It is deeply funny that he has spent the last year and a half begging Connor functionally, but I don't like I've never once said that's the wrong decision. He's waiting for the payday, which I get. And it looks like he's going to get it now. Hopefully, knock on wood, believe it when it happens. But I don't have any advice for Michael Chandler. Just, maybe yell less. I'd like that. But for Brian Ortega, please learn to defend yourself. It's hard to watch you get clubbed around in every fight.
All right, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Real quick. This is for Terrence Leverett. Terrence, send me your super chat again. You don't need a super chat, but just put it in the comments and.
Oh, I see it, Casey. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Okay. Terrence, it was just a comment, not a question. Rose looks to me like she doesn't want to hurt people no more, kind of like Rory McDonald when he found God. Yeah, Rose is pretty open about her media days. A lot of glory, all praise be, glory to God, and a lot of that in her post-fight interview as well. So I don't know if we can draw that connection. There's a lot of pretty Christian fighters, a lot of religious fighters, and I think the majority of them are still do a pretty good job of knocking people out and flooring them. And so I get it. I see where Terrence's head is at. I kind of understand, but I don't know if that has anything to do with her not being able to finish Ribas or not being able to finish Menelfio. I mean, those are both pretty tough fighters to put away, I think. So, yeah, I think it's just a level of competition she's fighting. I would even say that for Rory as well. I think Rory admitted, I think he himself it was that said that, like, it's not quite the same since he became, more of a religious person. So that's like self-admitted. But I also think that Rory was just fighting guys that he frankly couldn't put away and couldn't beat at that stage of his career. But it's a question to ask for sure.
She just has one of the oddest careers in terms of like the breaks and then the movements and then you have weird splits and she just has one of the oddest careers, and I don't have a good sense of where she's at. It's a very difficult thing to kind of pin down. And so I can understand looking for reason to try to be like, well, is this what's happening? Like, I completely understand that inclination because it's kind of inexplainable. Like, her entire career is kind of very odd. It's just an odd career. So yeah, I get it. I don't personally think it's that, but I don't know.
She's got a little bit. We talked about this at the pre-fight Q&A. She's a little Randy Couture-ish, where like she's got such clear highs, but but also just a ton of lows and weird like lows that maybe you aren't expecting, or demonstrably bad lows that it does make her very interesting. Terrence, I don't think this is a wrong view at all. I don't know that it's true, but I, like Rick said, can understand it. I would just also say that she's not a finisher in general anyway. That the idea that she is supposed to be finishing people comes from the fact that on the biggest stages in her biggest moments, she knocked out Joanna and Wiley in the first round. And those are the two knockouts of her career. She does not have any other knockout. She's got some submissions, but it's against, Angela Hill and stuff. It's not the same level of durability.
That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, long time ago, not the same. And she really isn't she could be, feels like she has that in her, but that really isn't who she is. So I think the true answer probably is an amalgamation of a lot of different things, right? She's never been like the most committed fighter. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of it, but I doubt that's all of it,
Yeah. Cool. And her knockouts were kind of just one shot, hit and quit. I mean, it wasn't like she just had this overwhelming offense. It was just I'm going to kill you for this whole round. It's just she
just found a really good shot like early in a fight and then buried the nails.
Yep. All right. Thank you much.
I eat doughs. Feed Rose to Natty Ice. Rose looks a bit slow and pillow-handed at 125. Natalia is so much faster than most of these fighters when you watch the tape. Wish we had Mike Heck here, because Mike Heck is the number one Natty Ice supporter in all of the land. But in the absence of him, AK, please speak for your best friend in this hypothetical matchup.
I'm pretty sure he would hate this. Why? If this is just to get Natty Ice over and give her a name, sure. I do not like this matchup for Rose Namajunas at this stage of her career. I know she's more experienced. I know she's been in bigger fights. I know she's fought better competition. But I think Natalia Silva is a legitimate future title contender. She is an actual 125er. I would hate this for Rose right now. Again, for whatever the reason is that Rose, is not looking like a killer at 125 so far. I don't think putting her in there with Natalia Silva is going to help that. So yeah, I have no interest in just feeding her as to Natty Ice as this question phrases it. Do people hate Rose now or something? I don't know. Like, I understand hating any fighter. That's fine. If you have your personal reasons for hating a fighter, totally get it. No problem. But is there something about her performances or how she's handled her career that people don't like her? I'm not sure. Why do we want to see her used as a stepping stone now?
I think she got a lot of bad will from the Carla fight.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
I legitimately think the Carla fight really shifted some narratives.
What about Carla? I guess Carla also got. I guess they both did.
Well, Carla,
I guess no one has
guys,
fight. Yeah. More Rose?
That fight was horrific, but it was not necessarily the fight itself. It was the reaction to the fight. It was the excuses that came after that fight that people just are not into that, and then it continued into a real lackluster performance against Manafaro. Like, it's not been a good run recently from a quote unquote like PR perspective. It's not like the performances as I kind of outlined. There hasn't been a real like a super impressive one in quite a bit. But it's kind of been the tenor and tone after the performances that I think has turned people off. I've noticed a real drastic shift in terms of her standing with the fans. She was a fan favorite, and I think that has shifted drastically.
I think Rose is just, as I don't want to say grown up, but she's just a different person now than when we kind of met her. She's just, I mean, I met Rose at her. I threw this up on our Slack. I was like, I realized I forgot. I was at Rose's first fight, her first fight in Invicta, and that was the same card that Laura Sanko made her pro debut on. Like I've known Rose for a long time, and we talked a lot back then. And she's legitimately is a very different person now, and that's normal. Just to go from
20, whatever,
just 20, yeah. Rose has told her stories about her past, and Rose she was just this young lady getting into the sport, and then all of a sudden she became, relatively very famous very quickly on the tough reality show, losing the title, then winning the title. She has lived a life that honestly no one else has lived on this earth. She has a very unique life. And so these are just Rose is just a different person, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I'm pretty confident Rose though is happy who she is, and I don't think she really cares what kind of we think about that in that sense. I'm sure she just wants to go out there and win and do
Nor
the best
should
she
she.
can. Nor should she. So it's just yeah, she's not the same person that we saw in the Tough House, and I think the fans need to kind of accept that her as a fighter and just a human being.
So
Does
the
everybody
one
think?
thing
No, go
I
ahead,
was going to
Jed.
say,
Go ahead.
the one thing I'll push back on with that, Casey, is
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I don't think it's that the fans are expecting the Tough House, because the Tough House was like 9 years ago, and that's just not the life cycle of MMA fans. I think that if we assume that most MMA fans are, the turnover seems to be like 4, 5, 6 years, right? In the last 5 years, Rose has one good performance. It's the Zhang Weili fight, like the knockout Zhang Weili. Other than that, you know, she lost to Jessica Andrade, then she kind of beat Jessica Andrade, but not really. The other one,
And
it's
an
like Rich
amazing
said,
fight. That was an amazing fight, though. The second fight too. It was a really good fight.
yeah, but when you win a fight where it feels like you lost, you never come out of that cleanly, even though it's not her fault. But
Yeah.
like you just get some negative press there, and then I will also say this is judgmental of me, and that's okay. I'm really confident that other people feel this way. The I'm the best works when you're saying it, and then you go out and knock out Joanna Jacek. Saying I'm the best a bunch and then having a tepid decision win over Amanda Heas is it's a lot harder to tolerate that sort of thing. And that's just sort of part and parcel. So if you come into the sport in the last couple of years, yeah, the Wiley fight is awesome, but then everything since that has been mid, and you're just hearing stories about why people like Thug Rose, but you didn't live that, so you're not going to like her in the same way.
All right.
I think one major difference
Anyway,
with
thanks,
the I'm the
IE
best stuff
Do
too.
we?
Oh, sorry, I might be lying
Go
here.
ahead,
But one major difference with the I'm the best stuff is not only is it better when it's done ahead of a highlight reel victory, also when it's in an arena. It felt awkward in the Apex, man, because in an arena I can almost see like, you know what, she is saying this to block out the noise and center herself. In the Apex, it just sounded like she was trying to like block out like voices in her head or something. It came off so weird, and really she's doing the same thing. It's not that she's doing anything different. It's that the environment is different, and the way it's shown in the broadcast is different. Like it sounds so lonely. It sounds like her saying it just sounds so lonely when she's saying it. So I don't have any problem with that pre-fight mantra, but it is affected by the atmosphere for sure.
Is everybody
I
100%
agree
sure
with
this would be like feeding her to Natty Ice? Like, I don't think I feel that way yet. Like, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think it's that.
I do.
Like,
I don't think
and I'm pretty
I don't
high
think
on
I
Natty
think the
Ice.
fight's
Like,
competitive.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's how that goes. I don't think it's like, yeah, just knock her off. I'm not sure about that yet. I'm high on Talia Silva, but yeah, I don't think that's how that goes necessarily.
I think we're just really diminishing Amanda Hebus too. Like, Amanda, it was
Yeah.
a good victory. I mean,
It's a really good performance.
it's a really good performance. I mean, yeah, it's just Rose is weird. Rose is weird in how the fans perceive her. So.
Weirdest, one of the weirdest careers I can recall. Like, I don't, off the top, I can't think of a weirder one. Just insanely weird career.
The fact that we call her
little-
Thug Rose and like that idea of what Thug Rose is, like, that's not who she is now. That's just, she's Farmer Rose now. She's like, no, I love Jesus Rose, which is great. That's cool.
She picked her name.
Yeah.
Casey, to your point, she chose the name, so that's what we're going with.
Right.
I'll also add that she did look slower in there, but she even noted that in her post fight, which I thought was good to see. Like, she said, yeah, felt a little slow, got things to work on. So look, she's figuring 125 out. We'll see how she does,
All right. Thank you much. I got a super chat here. Another one about Rose, I think.
Giovanni Perez, am I crazy for thinking Blanchfield should already be getting a title fight? Hope it's guaranteed after she beats another really tough opponent. You all know my thoughts on Erin Blanchfield. She's the best women's flyweight in the world. She's probably the best women's bantamweight in the world, if we're being real, and the best women's fighter in the world. She certainly already deserves a title fight. it's not how things are going right now, which is unfortunate. But they made Habib wait for 5 years when he was clearly the best lightweight. Aaron Blanchfield will be fine.
Yeah, she would have had it if it wasn't for the second Valentina Grasso fight played out, right? She would have won the fight after that, and then she would have just got a title fight. So no, Giovanni, you are not crazy at all. The cards just kind of played out in a screwy way for her, unfortunately, and now it's just a wait because of, I mean, a great reason for filming of The Ultimate Fighter, but still unfair.
All right, and because it is very late everywhere in the world, everywhere right now, this is our last super chat, and it's way off topic, but it's a super chat.
Oh God,
Wiedenhoff, what is your take on that Connors Roadhouse interview with him tweaking? Does Dana know he's not well, and maybe that's why they're not booking him? AK is just viscerally unhappy, so I'll say the same thing I said in the pre-fight Q&A when we got this. I am less. I just have less feelings than the internet did about this. It's certainly not a good look by any means, but I also think that there are probably some pretty normal explanations for that interview. There are many other interviews that happened this last week that to me were much more like, oh, yeah, that's less than ideal. That one, I'm willing to write that because of the manner and proclivities we believe, or some people have suggested Connor partakes in. That didn't look anything like that to me. That looked like a dude who maybe wasn't all the way there, but also he's been doing a lot of media, a lot of things this week. And, one tough interview. He's done a million of them. They're not all going to be gold. But Rick, what did you think? Do you try to keep your job? But what did you think?
I don't know the timing offhand, but that does not feel like a recent thing. That feels earlier in the press. That I do not believe that interview happened.
That could have been a couple of weeks ago easily.
I don't think that's recent. I don't think that's recent, even though it is circulating now. So I will just say we've seen him more recently. Like he was just live in New York to do that press thing, and it did not look like that. So yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock into what we don't know what happened there, but I wouldn't put too much stock into whatever it was because we've seen him since. But yeah, that does not feel recent, even though it's circulating right now.
Yeah, a lot of times these are embargoed interviews that they actually shoot sometimes months ago. So because these are entertainment PR junket type interviews that you're watching. So
yeah,
and I would also just say why this is just not something to be concerned about. Like if every interview was this, then okay. But like, I don't know. I've been around problems that people have made the assertion and alluded to, like with friends and family. It's like that's not a problem. That's a one-time incident. If every incident or a bunch of incidents are like that moving forward, yes. But I don't think we've gotten anywhere near a threshold where I'd be concerned about its long-term well-being.
But I think there's a big recent wave of like this, like, is this person okay? Can they fight situation? Like obviously the most notable and obvious one right now is Ryan Garcia, who seems to be, at a certain point going off the rails and the focus of this attention. But this is seeming to happen a lot more as people are more public and more exposed, and the internet has a stronger voice, and the idea of can we determine the context for these things kind of goes away. Like, as I said, like, does anybody know when that interview occurred? That would be useful information for somebody to have, but nobody has looked into it or knows or cares. It just kind of gets spread with like, look at Conor McGregor tweaking. So yeah, it seems part of a wave of this idea of like concern trolling almost to a certain degree. And like, it doesn't feel like it's appropriate in this scenario. Like I think we're okay on the other side of this.
Yeah, I'll just say the clip was certainly odd, but I don't think you don't need to base your concerns on Conor's behavior on that clip. I think if you followed Conor's shenanigans over the past 6 years or more, then you have more than enough reason to criticize certain aspects of his lifestyle. This clip shouldn't
6 years is generous.
Maybe this clip shouldn't make or change anyone's minds about like, oh man, Conor has he really gone over the edge here? And it's like, how many guys go to MMAfighting.com? How many stories have you written about his stuff he's been up to? It's an amusing clip to look at, but yeah, it's you guys know Conor's deal by now, guys. You know his deal.
Conor McGregor flew to New York to throw a dolly at a bus and punched an old dude in a bar.
Yeah,
And like,
that's more
just
concerning.
there are substantially more concerning actions in the past decade. Again, this wasn't great, but this is not. This is better than him assaulting an unarmed old man in a bar.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Unless, Casey, something happened that I didn't know, but it's 2:30 a.m. on the East Coast. I didn't think we were going this long, but you hooligans just wanted to stay and chat about UFC Vegas 89. That's what happens when people get bit. So people just want to come out and talk about people getting bit. It's been a ride, fellas, but the ride continues next week. Atlantic City, baby. UFC Atlantic City, another women's flyweight main event. We'll talk about that then. For now, that's Eric Jackman. That's AK Lee. That's EKC Leydon. Best guns in the business. I'm Jed Meshew. This has been the MMA Fighting UFC Vegas 89 post show. We will see y'all next time. Love y'all.
Yes. How do you do that? How do you do it, Eric?
It's so defined.
Balloons.
Ah!
Oh, it does get balloons. Woo!
Ah! This is the greatest time ever. All right.
Bye.
Bye.